Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Brain Lady Speaks podcast. I am Julie Anderson, your Brain Lady, and I am here today to talk about something that a lot of us may struggle with, and that is focus. So many people today have difficulty focusing. And when I say so many people, I'm in that boat too, right? We just oftentimes will find ourselves just unable to really get our brains into something or constantly being distracted, right? You know it. You've been there. I'm sure this sounds familiar, this scenario, right? You sit down to focus and you're getting ready to do something, whether it's a cook a meal or a clean a room or do a project at work. And all of a sudden you hear this notification or you see the screen. I always have my notifications turned off, but if my phone is within eyesight, I will see the screen light up, right? And all of a sudden, you get distracted, you get pulled away. You are now grabbing that phone or opening that email and you're reading it and you're responding to that. And 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour goes by and you haven't done your original project that you started out to do. And it gets really frustrating, right? You feel like something's wrong with you because you have this lack of focus. Well, that's going to be what we talk about today. And I'm going to give some really solid tips on how to help with this, how to strengthen your focus muscle. So stick with me. Now, one of the reasons why I decided to do this particular topic is just a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with a friend of the family, and he was asking me for advice on supplements that would help him with his concentration, supplements that would help him with his focus and with his memory. And but he has mentioned to me, he's like, but I don't really like supplements and I don't necessarily believe in supplements. So are there really supplements that can help? And I told him, yes, there are. There are supplements that are great for the brain. And we will get into that in another podcast when we talk about brain health when it comes to that cognitive processes. But for this podcast, I want to get into the other side of it. What are real life things that we can do to improve our focus? And in order to understand what those tools are, we have to really understand how we got here, right? Why is focusing so difficult? So, the first thing that I told him is you have to eliminate all of the obvious. And what I mean by that is look, are you sleeping well? And are you eating well? And are you getting exercise? Because those three things are so crucial to cognition that if you're not doing those, then that in itself is going to make it difficult to focus. If you're not hydrating, just being dehydrated causes difficulty by 2%, causes difficulty focusing on a computer screen. Right. So just look at the first thing you're going to do is you're going to eliminate those things. Then you have to look at your lifestyle, right? Why are we having such a hard time focusing? If it's not because we're not getting enough sleep, or we're not eating good brain food, or we're not staying hydrated or moving enough. Why is it? Why is it that we have such difficulty focusing? Well, a lot of it has to do with delayed gratification and technology. Those are the two biggest culprits. Now, when you understand the functioning of the brain, you learn that the brain is very malleable. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can learn more things. It doesn't matter what horrible internal thought process you have, you can reprogram your brain. You can learn new things. Now, that works for us if we employ it to do so. It also works against us if we're not paying attention to what's going on around us. And this is what I mean when I talk about the technology pollution that we are constantly bombarded with. Our attention spans are shrinking. And a lot of that has to do with just all of the tech, all of this stuff that we are bombarded with every day. And when I was growing up, we didn't even have computers in the household, right? In the 70s, we were outside doing things. We had to focus on building a fort or focus on putting um, all of those straws, those plastic straws on our bike spokes. For you who grew up in the 70s and 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Or the playing cards. You go steal a couple cards from your playing card deck to put on your bicycle so it would make that really cool clicking sound. And your parents never realized it until they went to play a game and there were only 50 cards in the deck or 48. You get where I'm going, what I'm getting at, right? We were out doing things and we were engaging our brain and exploring the world in ways that forced us to figure things out, forced us to focus. And now there's very little of that. Everything is at our fingertips. All we have to do is push a couple buttons and the answer comes to us. Right? There's no Encyclopedia Britannica 20 volumes sitting on our bookshelves anymore. Well, maybe there is, but chances are you don't use it, right? We just go, it's too easy. It's so easy. We don't even use it long form math most of the time because there's a calculator on our phone. Everything has gone into this quick, instant, get it now. I don't have to focus and concentrate. I don't have to go find the answer myself. I can just push a couple buttons and it's so much easier. So much easier. So we're not having to focus to find the answer. Does that make sense? You follow me here? We're just not thinking that much. So guess what? Our brain gets wired that way. Our brain gets wired to the point where it's like, I don't know how to focus. I don't know how to go look something up in an encyclopedia because I've been doing this for so long. And for those of you who are listening, I'm using my phone, my cell phone as a prop here for the podcast. We also have an issue with social media. Now, I have this, anybody who knows me knows that I have this love-hate relationship with social media. Like there are so many things about social media that have been beneficial to my business. I mean, let's face it, this podcast is going to get promoted on social media. And as a result of being promoted on social media, people are going to listen to it. My team is going to get this recording and this video, and they are going to clip and cut and splice and put out snippets of this podcast onto social media, onto YouTube, onto TikTok, onto Instagram, onto the platforms that we utilize. And that's marketing. That lets people know, hey, this might be something I want to listen to, and they're going to click through and listen to the entire thing. Hopefully, they're going to listen to the entire thing because all the tips are, all the good stuff's at the end, right? The point is that it has a place, right? It's very functional in business, and it's even functional staying connected to our friends, right? I have friends that live in different countries, and I love it. I just saw a post this morning of somebody who lives in Portugal, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool what they're doing. You love that, and it has that benefit. Now, the challenge is, again, when it comes to the actual wiring in our brain, this has been compared to a slot machine. I should say, not the phone. Social media has been compared to a slot machine. The Social Dilemma was a documentary that was done on understanding what is happening to society based on social media. Very, very, very interesting. There was also a book. I have not read this book. I've read snippets of this book as in my research. It's called The Shallows: What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains by Nicholas Carr. So maybe we should do a book club reading on this. But this book explores how the internet, how this scrolling is actually affecting the brain, how it's changing our social skills, as well as rewiring our brain in ways that are not necessarily positive and actually causing us difficulty in focus and concentration. It actually activates, there's been research that has been done on how that scrolling on social media, and this is why was compared in the Social Dilemma documentary to gambling, to slot machines, is it releases dopamine as you're scrolling, right? And so you're getting that dopamine hit, much like an addiction, much like the dopamine hits that you might be getting from some form of addiction. And that's why, or some form of drug or alcohol or other vices, right? It's replacing that. So you're actually shortening the brain's response time for dopamine hits. Whereas in other situations, we would go out in a healthy situation, we might go on exercise for 30 minutes, and that gives us that endorphin rush or that those dopamine hits that we want and we need in a positive manner. But this is giving it that kind of that instant. And because of it, there's no requirement for sustained attention. And I admit to the guilt of it. I love looking at I'm constantly bookmarking um, recipes on there. And it's so nice that I don't have to read through all of the parts on the how to. I just get here's a shortened video, a 30-second video of beginning to end of making this cake or this meal or whatever. And here's the ingredients. Like, I love that. However, it doesn't take the concentration. Back in the late, or I should say would have been the around 1980, 1982. I was so into baking. I loved it. I got this big, huge book. I should have found it. I still have it out there on my bookshelf. This big, huge book on how to do French pastries. There were almost no pictures in that book, and almost all of it, and it's a thick book, was dedicated to the skill, the art of doing French pastries and all of those steps and then all of those recipes. Definitely something that took time to read. And now we just simply don't do that. Right. So these are the things that are causing us every time you scroll, we're getting that hit of dopamine, kind of that slot machine in the brain. So now you get hooked and you get that inability to pull off that cookbook and go through all of those detailed steps, not because you can't do it, but because you've actually trained your brain not to do it. Does that make sense? So that's one. The other big thing, and I touched on it at the beginning, is that delayed gratification, right? The encyclopedias, right? We don't have to do any work. Everything's right now. I remember back, when we first moved up to Grass Valley where we live now, we had I would get, I don't like going to the mall. I'm not a big shopper. I don't like going to the mall. I know I want a skirt. I know I want a top. I know I want a green pair of slacks or whatever it is. So I want to just go to that. And I used to get this many, I mean, poor trees. I probably killed an entire forest based on all of the catalogs that I used to get, especially towards the fall, when all those catalogs got a little bit thicker and you got a little bit more of them and you got them a little bit more often. I would go through the catalogs, and in the very beginning, you would go through the catalog, you would pick out the item you wanted, you would fill out the order form. Okay. You'd fill out the order form with the item number, the item description, and the price per item. You would then do that. You would add up exactly what you needed to send them, and then you would write a check, put it in the envelope, put that envelope in the mail, and it would take a good 4 to 6 weeks to get your item. It was excruciating sometimes. Oh, if you wanted to, you could expedite it for like an extra $10 or whatever it was, which back in the 1980s was a lot of money. The My point is, up to 19 into the 90s as well, right? The point is that it took time, it took focus, it took concentration. And I had no problem doing it, trust me. I bought plenty of things through the catalogs. It was just what our brain was trained to do. Everything now is completely different. Everything is that click of the mouse. We have this wonderful platform called Amazon. We have this wonderful place you can go to called Amazon, and this wonderful platform called the internet that makes it so you can just simply order things online in a fraction of the time, which is a wonderful time saver in our busy lives now. However, there's no delayed gratification. You can order that item, and chances are you're going to have it If you're ordering it from the one platform, right, you're going to have it sitting on your doorstep by tomorrow or the next day. And anything else is probably going to come within a week or two. It just trains your brain that that's what life is about. So that's what you need. And that becomes counterproductive when you need to sit down and actually focus and concentrate on a task, right? This this instant gratification is actually creating this almost dopamine loop in your brain, and it's making it so that it's very difficult for you to focus and make really do any planning, any kind of long-term planning. So, what's the answer? You're probably going, "Uh-huh, yes, uh-huh, yes, absolutely. That's me. I've developed ADD." And in some ways, we are creating a generation that is having much more difficulty with that attention span. However, there is a direct connection between delayed gratification and increased activity in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is the area of the brain for higher thinking. It's the area of the brain where we solve problems, where we figure things out, where we understand consequences of our actions. There was a wonderful experiment that they did with children. This was actually a while ago when the experiment started, and it was called the marshmallow experiment. You might look it up. It was kind of cute, where they actually had children not, they had the bowl of marshmallows in front of these kids, and the children that they were told to wait. They were told, "Don't touch them, wait." The children that actually waited, actually obeyed and experienced that delayed gratification, they had greater adult success in their lives. Isn't that interesting? Based on that same study, they've done research on the prefrontal cortex, and they have found that this area gets stronger, right? Gets stronger the more you practice delayed gratification. So, here's the neuroscience tips. Here's where we get to, the the actual things that will help us to extend our brain's ability to actually train our brain to focus more. And I'm going to give you, I think I have 5 of them written down here in my notes that are my actual favorite, that really, really, really help. So the first is that literally practice delayed gratification, right? Instead of instantly, buying the everything already pre-made for you, take the time on a weekend to actually bake from scratch a cake, bake from scratch the bread, bake from scratch coq au vin or beef Wellington or some wonderful meal, right? Now, if cooking isn't your particular thing, right? If that's not what it is, then don't order something online. Go to a mall, take the time to go to a mall and walk through the store. The malls will love you for this. It'll be good for the economy, right? And search for that thing that you want to get. And don't buy the first one that you see, right? If it's a blue shirt, go to 5 different stores. Look up all the blue shirts and then purchase it, right? Delayed gratification. Put that focus into it, right? Um, turning off all the notifications on your phone so that you have to like limit yourself. Most phones nowadays will tell you what your screen time is. And if they don't tell you automatically, you can't look it up automatically. You can download an app that'll tell you that. Limit that. Limit that screen time. Read every post. If you are scrolling through the social media, actually read the post. Actually read the article that's being quoted. Or let's say somebody put up a really cool motivational meme and you're like, "Oh, I really like that." Don't just scroll to the next one. Actually take time to research the author of that quote, the person who said that quote. Look them up on the internet. Read about them, right? Practice the delayed gratification of not becoming fully gratified until you've done all of the work. Does that make sense? When you do this, you're actually strengthening your prefrontal cortex. So think about in your life, what are some of the things that I could put more effort into doing, right? Instead of going and buying the something already put together for me, can I buy it in parts and pieces and take the time to put it together, right? That delayed gratification. Think about how you can do that. My next one is mindfulness practice. Now, when you work with me as a client, or you have me come out and speak with you about, or with your group or your organization about just about anything, I'm always going to talk on some level mindfulness practice, because that is one of the best ways to improve your cognitive abilities. It is it is the best way to reprogram and rewire your brain of negative thinking. So take time every day to practice mindfulness. 5 minutes, 5 minutes a day. This isn't, and I'm not talking about the transcendental meditation or the sitting on the floor and chanting. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about becoming very immersed in every single sight, sound, and feeling that is around you. Becoming 100% present. So for 5 minutes, and I love doing this when the weather's nice. So for probably about where I live, about 8 months out of the year, I'm able to sit outside and I can do my deep breathing, open up the cognitive portion of my brain, and then you just stop and you just feel every single portion of your body. How your fingers feel, your toes feel, your gut feels, your head feels, your hair feels. Well, you can't really feel your hair, but you get my point, right? Become completely connected to yourself, and then become completely connected to your surroundings, right? What do you see when you're looking outside? If you're sitting inside, when you're looking outside, what do you see? Right now I see the pine trees. I see the plum tree that just finished blooming. I see the passion vine that's covered with blooms. I see the different colors of green. I see the gray, it's raining, the gray sky behind that, right? Like literally embrace yourself into every single thing that you see. Stop and pay attention to every single thing that you hear. Become completely present. What you're doing in this, and if you're trying to reprogram your brain, then this is where your brain is going to be really open to that programming. What you're doing in this time is you're just slowing the world down. You're taking your foot off the acceleration pedal and you've put your foot on the brake and you're slowing everything down. Now, obviously, do not do this with your phone in your hand. That defeats the whole purpose. Right? Become very, very connected to the now and be 100% present. That is going to strengthen the prefrontal cortex and strengthen your cognitive abilities, and become a tool that you can now use at times during the day when you feel scattered and out of focus. Because you can take some we'll be doing a training on exactly how to do the mindfulness that we teach at Your Best Mind. But when you do this, you're actually taking a certain breath that is opening up the prefrontal cortex and allowing you to think. So now that your brain is programmed with that mindfulness work every morning, you can now, during the middle of the day, when you feel that scattered, you can stop, put your feet on the ground, take that deep breath, and become very, very connected with the moment, in the moment. And that's going to help you to improve your focus on the spot. So, doing mindfulness, very, very great, very, very valuable, strengthens those neural pathways that are associated with attention and reduces the impact of the distractions that you have all day long. Third, I want you to actually read something. Now, I personally love reading books. I know a lot of people that love reading books. Here's what I want you to do is I want you to read something substantial, something that has a point, an article in a magazine, a beefy blog, right? Not just a 100-word blog, but a beefy blog. I read a lot of neuroscience books, a lot of neuroscience reports. Um, read that, read part of a newspaper if that's what you like reading, although right now that's going to cause you anxiety. Read something substantial at least once a week, like several pages. And then I want you to summarize it. So before you start reading that, you're actually going to tell your brain, okay, I want to come away with 5 points from this chapter, with 5 things that I want to remember and recall from this chapter. If it's a nonfiction, then you're pulling out the 5 substantial keys or tips that you gained out of that chapter. If it is a fictional book, then the 5 moments in those chapters or that chapter that you read that you really appreciated, or the 5 phrases or 5 sentences that you liked about the author's skill in writing. This causes your brain, if you're telling your brain this before you start reading, and then you're doing that summary after you're done reading, you're actually training your brain to focus, to stop and think as you're reading, to really pay attention. Because if you're like me, if it's something that doesn't really interest me that much, um, or isn't like just really grab your attention kind of thing, I might read 3 pages and go, I have no idea what I just read. So you have to do that brain prep ahead of time. Tell your brain, look for these 5 things, look for these 3 things that I want to take away. And then you're going to actually physically write those on a piece of paper or in a journal. I'm not a big journaler. Everybody who knows me knows I brain dump, which means I just dump my ideas onto a piece of paper. So do the do that. Just write those things down. Again, what you're doing is you're actually training your brain. You're improving your comprehension, your reading comprehension, and you're strengthening the ability to process that information. And that's all a focused mental exercise. So it's going to improve your focus muscle. This is my 4th one, and this is going to hopefully be a fun one for you. Play a non tech based game. In other words, don't play Words with Friends. Don't play a word search or a game on your phone or on your tablet or on your computer. Actually play a board game. Play a game that requires concentration. Even something as simple as Monopoly, right, is going to take a certain amount of thought process. It's going to take some concentration. Now you may say, "Oh, those games are so boring." Yeah, they're boring because you have no attention span. So the way to create that attention span is to play these games, right? You maybe a brain game. Right? I have a lot of brain games, and some of them are like these 3D puzzles within a ball, and you have to move the little, you have to concentrate and get the little BB that's inside of it to go along and fall in this hole and then go down that. Anything that's going to take that time to concentrate, do that several times a week, right? Maybe play Scrabble. Again, not Words with Friends, but actually pull out a board and play Scrabble. Put together a puzzle, right? A puzzle that causes you to have to concentrate on what piece goes where. These types of games are a great way to exercise your brain, right? Improve your memory and enhance your problem solving skills, especially if you're going to up level it to something like, say, chess or checkers or even tic-tac-toe. I know that sounds strange, but one of the best games to play with a recent stroke victim is tic-tac-toe. It causes you to have to physically move with your body, and it also causes you to have to anticipate the next move of the next person and to kind of figure out what's the best way or the best move for me to take. So playing a game that board game, an interactive physical game that actually causes you to have to use your brain a little bit deeper, and it takes time, right? It's not just slide the tiles, it's actually taking the extra time to put the tiles in place. Okay. Last, I'm going to tell you, and this is my 5th top tip that I'm going to tell you, is go for a walk in nature, right? Just completely disconnect from technology. If you can do this at least once a week, physically you're going to be better. There are multiple studies, and we'll do a podcast on this in the future, multiple studies of the positive impact that nature has, being in green spaces has on the brain. Wonderful, wonderful benefits. So you get that benefit, but you also, when you go for that walk with a purpose, right? So before you start your walk, you're going to actually have an intention. You're going to tell yourself, this is what I want you to notice on the walk. I want you to find 3 leaves, notice 4 birds. Right? Give yourself a goal, give yourself something that's going to cause you to have to focus while you are on that walk. All of these tasks, when you do this walking exercise, you're disconnecting from technology, so you're reducing your anxiety level, kind of that, reducing the FOMO, reducing all of the anxiety that comes with all of those pop-ups and all of those notifications. You're in the green spaces, you're hearing, they've done studies on simply listening to nature sounds, you're hearing the nature sounds. That's good for your brain. And if you do it with a plan, you do it with a purpose, right? It can even be walking a certain number of steps. It can be changing your cadence throughout. Like, okay, I'm going to walk this fast and then I'm going to walk slow. And then I'm going to walk this fast, I'm going to walk slow. Or I'm going to pick up, like I said, so many pieces of, so many leaves, or I'm bound and determined to find that perfect pine cone. If you're able to go for a walk up where the pine trees are, right? Do it with a purpose, have that purpose set in mind before you start your walk. And again, what you're doing is you're training your brain to focus. It now has to focus on its surroundings as you're going for that walk. So you're getting all of the positives, mental gifts and positive things that come from going on a walk and being in green spaces, but you're also strengthening your focus muscle. All right. Hopefully, so those are my tips. If you just employ one of these, you're going to find that your focus is improving. So do me a favor. As I'm wrapping this up, I'm going to ask you to focus on something for me. Focus on helping spread the word about the Brain Lady Speaks podcast. If you found this information valuable, give me some social media love, share it out on the different platforms that you are on, then put your phone down and go outside and go for a walk, or pull out that game out of the closet, dust it off and open it up and play it. Great bonding activity as well with the significant people in your lives. All right. Hopefully this has been beneficial for you. Hopefully you're walking away with some aha moments, some things that you can imagine doing. If you are watching this on YouTube or somewhere, give us comments, right? Let us know, what did you think about the information? Or if you have a question, post a question. We'll do our best. My team and I will do our best to watch out and respond as often as we can. All right. So that is it for this episode of the Brain Lady Speaks podcast. And as I wrap up all of these podcasts, you know me, if you've been listening for a while, I want you to take a nice deep breath in. Oh, let it out and relax. Oh, it's been a busy day for me, probably been a busy day for you, but now is the time to let go of technology and go out there and simply enjoy every moment. Thank you for being with us.